You are watching Ask the Instructor. Absorb the knowledge. Become the expert.
And welcome back to this week's episode of Ask the Instructor. My name is John Christma. This show is brought to you by the Tampa School of Real Estate. We're here every Wednesday, 12 noon Eastern Time, to help you understand the technical side of the real estate industry. And what we're talking about today is farming. And in particular, we're going to be talking about a multi-channel farming strategy. But first, let's start off with that word farming. What does it mean to farm? And why? So this is like, imagine you're a farmer and you go plant seeds in a field. And if you go plant seeds in a field, that doesn't guarantee that you're going to have a bountiful harvest. You go scatter a bunch of seeds in a field and you don't come back to those seeds for another 6 months to a year. Maybe a couple of them sprouted into something, but maybe there's some animal, some sort of like crow or bird or I don't know, whatever kind of pests that get into foods, rabbits, all the things that went and ate the harvest before you got there because you weren't paying attention to it. So a farming area, the term farm means to be like you're a farmer, except for you're not planting seeds, you're advertising to a particular area. But if you don't give that area your attention, if you're not omnipresent, that farmer is going to be omnipresent, even when they're not. I mean, they've got some old-fashioned things they do, like maybe they'll stick a scarecrow out there, but now in the 21st century, they've got all kinds of automated things where they've even got drones surveying farm areas and whatnot now. But the point being is if they want to have a successful farm, they need to give it attention. And that's what you need to do when you're trying to get saturation in a market, when you're advertising to a particular neighborhood. So that's what a farm area is. It's a particular geographic area you're advertising to. So you advertise to this particular geographic area, and there's a few things it is that you want to be sure. So number one, that you don't give up on this, that you stick it out. Because there's no plant out there where you just plant one seed and all of a sudden immediately you have this apple tree producing apples or whatever it is that you planted the seed for. So this takes time. Now there's ways we could speed it up. There's ways we could fertilize this soil to make this happen quicker, but it's always a question of, it's not if it's going to be successful, it's how long it takes to be successful. So that's number one. Make sure that you're persistent in this. Now number two, in establishing a strong farm area, not only do you want to make sure that you're not giving up, but you're setting yourself up for success. And that's by picking the right farm area. And define the right farm area. This is just briefly, because we've done whole episodes on farming before. If farming is new to you, make sure you go on our Success Center, tampaschool.com/success, and search for, there's a nice little search right on that page, search for farm or farming, and you'll find all kinds of videos about farming. But to condense this down real quick so we can talk about this whole multi-channel strategy here, when you're choosing a farm area, a few things it is that you want to keep in mind. Number one, that there's turnover. That's probably the most important aspect when you're choosing a farm area. That's number one. Before anything else, number one, you've got to make sure it's got a good turnover. If it doesn't have a good turnover compared to other neighborhoods in your market you could be targeting, other farm areas you could be targeting, it's not a great farm area. You might love the area, you might live in the area, that doesn't make it a great farm area. First and foremost, there needs to be turnover. Turnover meaning people moving out of the neighborhood. So you want to do some math, and if you don't know how to do this math, again, go to our Success Center, tampaschool.com/success, and search farming, and you'll find all kinds of videos on how to break down this math exactly, but you want to find the highest percentage of homes being sold in a given time frame. Maybe that's a year. Maybe you're looking at 6 months or whatever the case may be. Let's say it's a year. So if in one neighborhood, 10% of the homes sold in a year versus another neighborhood, 5% of the homes sold, which one's going to be more likely to get you results? Well, more likely to get you results is where there's a higher volume of transactions. We're not asking what's the better neighborhood to live in. That might be that neighborhood that only had 5% turnover. That's why maybe there's fewer people moving out. There's a lower percentage of people moving out. Maybe it's a more desirable place to live. So again, just because a neighborhood is a great neighborhood doesn't make it a great farm area. First and foremost, number one, you've got to find the turnover. And when you're looking at it with percentages, you could look at different sized neighborhoods and compare them based on which one has the highest occurrence, what percentage is the highest of people selling their homes. So that's number one. Number two thing, and this is by a big margin, so number one, way up here top of the list, off the charts top of the list. Number two thing it is that you want to look for is market share. Are you going up against Goliath, or is there nobody dominating this farm area already? So once you start to identify, okay, these are the areas where there's a lot of turnover, chances are a good seasoned agent will also know those same areas that have turnover. Now, you will find neighborhoods that have good turnover that don't have any agents with a dominant market share. And maybe no one's using that as a farm area or going and putting any effort in to market to that particular neighborhood. Or maybe they are, but they're doing it in a very passive, very hands-off kind of way where they're not giving it the attention. So the way it is that you're looking for that is you want to just see, okay, in this neighborhood, are there any agents or brokers that have had more than one sale in the past year? Because that's if there's only one sale from any one agent, if no agent has done more than one sale in that neighborhood, right away, you know right off the bat, they're not really dominating the neighborhood. Now, if there's only been like 2 sales in the neighborhood, and of course you're going to have one agent having 50%, another having 50%, you might want to look at trying to get into a bigger farm area where there has been more sales, or finding an area where there's a higher rate of turnover, so it's got more than 2 homes just in it being sold. Because if you're dealing with that, so the smaller it is your farm area gets, the less likely you're going to get results. But this is where you've got to balance in, okay, what's the most amount of people I could reach for at least a year? What's the most amount of people I could afford to reach? And that's usually what I recommend for at least a year without getting any return on your investment. Because if you go a year marketing and advertising to a particular community without any return on investment, that's a great place to start. Now, as you start to get business off of this and you start closing deals and you start earning commission checks, you absolutely want to reinvest at least some of your earnings back into expanding your farm area so you can maybe reach a larger audience, more people. You maybe add a second farm area, but you want to keep those rules in mind of making sure there's turnover and trying to avoid anywhere where some agent is dominating that market. Like if there's 10 sales in the neighborhood and one agent's got like 6 or 7, they've got a pretty hefty share of the sales going on there. And that's not to say that you can't gain business there. It's just going to be harder than compared to a neighborhood where nobody has any market share, where none of the agents, where there's 10 sales, but it was 10 different agents that did those 10 different sales. So no agent really is making that their neighborhood. So those are probably the 2 most important things to look at when you're choosing a farm area. Don't worry about so much the price. That's something maybe you'll factor in. Maybe don't worry so much about the distance. Everything else is bottom of the list of what's important. Number 1, turnover. Number 2, avoid somewhere where agents have market share. So that's where you want to set yourself up for success. You do this little bit of research in advance. You do your due diligence so you make sure that the money that you're going to be putting in here has the best chance of giving you the best return on investment. Because if you get in a neighborhood with low turnover where another agent already has a huge market share there, it's going to take you longer to get results. You're going to have to pay more money to get results. And if that's the only option available to you, if that's the best farm area still, then that's what you got. But chances are there's an area where no agents have any market share and you could still find a high turnover there, or at least find that lowest market share. Maybe there's a single agent that's got like 20-25% of the sales, but that's still not the majority. And compared to a neighborhood where a single agent has maybe 50 or 60% of the sales, take the 20 to 25% there. Now, getting back to making this a multi-channel, omnipresent strategy. So you pick the right neighborhood, you know you're going to commit to this for at least a year. Give the farm area at least a year before you give up on it. Because chances are within a year, you should be able to get at least a result. Even in some of the smallest of the farm areas, within a year you could probably get at least 1 sale. Now again, there's a point where your farm area might get too small. Like if there's only been 2 sales in the past 12 months, there's not even a whole lot of business for you to grab out of there. Versus at least if the neighborhood's at least got like 10 sales in the last 12 months, okay, there's some business. Because if last year predicts this year, which isn't always the case, so we're always doing a little bit of speculating. We're trying to read our crystal ball here, and the more research we do, the clearer that crystal ball becomes. But let's just say it did maintain. Chances are pretty good it probably will stay about the same, maybe go up a little, maybe go down a little, but there's usually not drastic swings one way or another. So if there's 10 sales last year, there'll probably be 10 sales this year. And if you're able to grab maybe 20, 30% of that market share, that's 2 to 3 deals, which if those are $10,000 commission checks, that's $20,000 to $30,000 that you're bringing in. And this is where you could really start to amplify this, where you could reinvest that commission back into your advertising and marketing strategies to speed this up, to be able to get even more business from that farm area, to take a greater market share, or maybe again expand that further as well. But here's the thing about being multi-channel. What it means to be multi-channel. It means to be everywhere, to use multiple channels to advertise and market to somebody. So just going off of some of the things you could be doing, you absolutely should be integrating some direct mail. This might mean that it could be handwritten letters. Handwritten letters are really time consuming, but handwritten letters will probably have the best result compared to a typed letter, something that's clearly not personalized to them. But that's not to say that you can't get results with a typed letter or even a postcard. But some version of direct mail, whatever that may be, whether that's you actually making this direct mail, you're maybe paying a service or a company to direct mail, but what you want to do is tie this direct mail to your farm area. So your goal of the farm area is to establish yourself as the known expert in the area. That's what you're trying to achieve. You're trying to establish yourself as the known expert of Tampa Palms, or the known expert of Wesley Chapel, or again, think smaller than this. Think of maybe a single little neighborhood. Like there's a little neighborhood right by this office here called Richmond Place. Not many homes in it, but that would be a great farm area, that not taking into account the is this set up for success? You'd have to look at, okay, what are the statistics of this neighborhood? How many sales occurred? What percentage were done by certain agents? What's the overall turnover rate of that neighborhood? So it might seem like, okay, a good size, but then, maybe you're diving down deeper into it. So another big community in this area where our office here in New Tampa is Tampa Palms. And within Tampa Palms is a huge community, but they have all these little micro neighborhoods within that greater community. And so you'll see that all over the place, wherever it is that you're advertising. Maybe you're more towards South Tampa, and you're maybe looking at, like maybe Hyde Park, or maybe even just a single street that you're looking at. Or maybe you're looking at a certain zip code, depending on what the population is of that zip code. If you've got a more rural area, that's maybe where you're looking at an entire zip code level. Maybe you're in a more urban area. So maybe places like, downtown Tampa, there's not too many condo buildings, and not too many in St. Petersburg. There's still great opportunities for farming. But, maybe you're in these markets like South Florida with Miami and Fort Lauderdale, where there's condo buildings everywhere and apartment buildings everywhere. You could pick out a single building and build your farming strategy around that. So you're picking this geographic area where you want to be known as the expert for buying real estate in that area, but also the expert for selling real estate in that area. So both. Because when the people in your farm area receive your advertisements, your marketing, whether that is a direct mail or all these other methods we're about to touch on here, they want to see you as one of two things. Either somebody that could help somebody buy, because maybe they've got a friend or family member or somebody who wants to move to the neighborhood, and so they would recommend you to them. Say, oh yeah, I just got this postcard from this guy John. He's always sending stuff to our neighborhood, our building. He's really knowledgeable about it. You got to call him. And so maybe something like that occurs, or they look at it and say, whatever reason it might be that they're looking to move on to better things and move out of that neighborhood. It's not necessarily a bad thing when somebody want to move out of a neighborhood. Maybe they're moving up. Maybe they've got a promotion or a new job, or whatever the reason may be. And even if it is something that they're maybe walking away from, something that was great or whatever the case may be, You're helping them. You're providing a service, and you want to show them that you are the expert in this building. So if they're thinking about selling, they want to hire the expert. And so that's there's a lot of ways to do that, whether that's through individual postcards or direct mail or whatever the case may be, that you're using their mailbox to reach them. But now if you're relying solely on their mailbox to reach them, there's a lot of people who what comes in their mailbox doesn't really reach them. Because when they go to check their mail, because usually they'll check their mail, a lot of times you'll get mail returned with direct mail, and that's okay, but it just goes to show you there's people out there that don't even check their mail, that'll let mail get returned because they don't even care about going down to their mailbox to get the mail, probably because they know it's going to be a bunch of junk in there. But then at the same time, there's those situations where direct mail does work. So you absolutely want to do it, but do not rely on it. Because there will be those people that either don't check their mail and you end up getting that postcard or letter back, or maybe it's a situation where they do check the mail and they see your postcard or whatever it is, your handwritten letter or whatever it is, and they look at it, and unless they've already kind of been warming up to this idea of buying or selling their property, they're probably not going to see that postcard and say, aha, it's a sign, this is what I needed. Every once in a while, the lightning will strike and you'll hit the lottery with this, and you will send that right postcard to the right person at the right time, and it'll result in business immediately, but it usually doesn't happen right away on the first impression that you make, the first letter, the first postcard, or whatever it is that you're using. So how do you go multi-channel? How do you ensure that you're maximizing the exposure to your farm area? So you don't want to rely just on direct mail. Another thing it is you want to incorporate is social. Whether that's Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat or TikTok or whatever is the popular place where people go online. You're a business that needs people. If you don't have people, you don't have customers, you don't have any business. So you want to go to where those people are hanging out. One of those things is their home. They're going to be spending some time at their home, so you can reach them through their mailbox, through direct mail. And it's very easy to get addresses for a neighborhood, so that's a real easy one where you could say, okay, there's services online where literally you just draw in, like you draw a circle or whatever shape it is that you want and cover all the properties, and they automatically populate the list of addresses, and they'll even have pre-made designs for you. There's tons of companies out there that will do that for direct mail for real estate professionals. This is something that's been around forever in real estate. Used to be the exclusive way that real estate agents would market. It still works today, but don't rely on it on its own, because you'll get left behind, because there's so many other ways to actually market out there. So with social, and I would use a combination of both paid social as well as organic social. Now when I say organic social as opposed to paid social is where you're going to pay old Mark Zuckerberg for putting your information, your messaging in front of the people you want it to be in front of. So really ideally you're using the paid, not because you have to, but because you want to ensure that your message lands in front of your farm area. Because when you don't pay old Mark Zuckerberg for telling them exactly who you want to see your message, you might be able to, go viral or do the organic thing where you're able to get attention. And that's a great way to get attention, but it won't necessarily be focused on your farm area. Now, there are some ways you could potentially make this focused around your farm area. They don't always work. They can work, especially when you're making sure, when you're being intentional about this. These are usually not set it and forget it things. The paying for ads, that's pretty set it and forget it. But when you're not paying Facebook and Mr. T-Shirt over at Facebook to basically put your ads in front of the right people, and you're maybe doing this with Facebook post, or you're maybe starting a Facebook group or something like that, a page about the community. There's a lot of agents that do find some success creating some sort of community-based page or group or something like that. I would argue you're probably able to get results a lot faster and a lot better results and more results from paid, or at least be able to get it faster, because doing it organically takes a lot longer, especially to get it in front of that right audience. There's a lot of finesse you have to make sure that the person who you want to see that message ultimately sees the message. Or you just pay Facebook and you specify exactly who it is that you want to reach. You drop a pin on the map, you specify the radius, you could even go in and add in some other demographics in there to further narrow down who it is that you're reaching. But that's another way you could have a multi-channel strategy. But now, on top of that, pay-per-click. So going online again to make sure the people in this neighborhood are seeing you first and foremost. Now, if you want to advertise on the keyword, so with pay-per-click is primarily through Google. Bing and the other search engines usually has something as well. Depending on how many people use Bing in your market, might make sense to use Bing, but for the most part, Bing has a pretty low rate of usage compared to Google. Not saying not to use Bing, but start with Google. And you could Bing actually has with Bing ads where you could import your Google ads directly into Bing and copy what you're doing on Google onto the Bing platform. So I would start with Google. But, maybe this depends on your market too. Because maybe in your market, Google's super saturated, but no one's advertising on Bing. So yes, less people use Bing, but if there's nobody advertising on the keywords that you're trying to target, that's what you're doing in pay-per-click advertising. You're choosing what keywords you want to show up in Google search results for. You're paying Google, I don't remember the names of the founders of Google, you're paying the old Google folks though, to make sure that when people type in this search term, that your result comes up at some point in this list. And depending on how much you pay and how good your ad is, will dictate on how high up on that list it actually is. So you buy these keywords essentially, you're bidding on the keywords, because really Google owns the keywords and you're just bidding for the spot when people search on these keywords. But just like with our social, we could confine this to a geographic area. So somebody searching homes for sale, if you wanted to target the keyword homes for sale, you're going to be competing on a large level with Google, with Realtor.com, with Trulia, with all of these home search websites that want traffic on their site because they want to sell you the leads. They want to sell you the leads for hundreds of dollars each, as opposed to you being able to generate them on your own for maybe a few dollars when you know how to maximize these systems and you know how to do what basically Zillow is doing. So use pay-per-click. If you try to do homes for search, because there's so many other businesses advertising on that same concept, it's going to increase the cost. But as you get more specific to a particular person, like maybe you're searching for, maybe your farm area is, we'll say that Richmond Place example, and you want to search for homes for sale in Richmond Place. People will search that. And how do you know will people search it? Well, Google's got a little tool where you put in whatever keyword and it tells you how many searches there are each month for that. So people might search for homes for sale in Richmond Place, and if you search that in Google and you don't see any ads on there, that's telling you nobody's advertising on that keyword, and it's probably for one of two reasons. Either there's not much traffic, or B, there is traffic and just no one's capitalizing on the opportunity. And that's where the real gold mine can be, where you can get these ads really cheap and you can get really cheap, good quality leads because it's so specific. And you can match up landing pages. There's a lot you could do when you're doing pay-per-click advertising to really maximize results, or any sort of digital advertising. But by limiting this to your geographic area, you're able to capture people looking for homes in the area. Or maybe you do another one on open houses in Richmond Place, or properties for sale. Again, all these keywords people might be searching, and they have that keyword planner tool from Google where you put in all these different keywords and they'll tell you how many people are searching for them. So you can kind of get an idea of how much business you could potentially get from those keywords. So pay-per-click, you absolutely want to implement that. But then at the same time, community events. This is another way to establish yourself with omnipresence, and especially if you're doing all these things first and foremost, you're advertising in direct mail, through social, through pay-per-click. When you actually get face-to-face with these people, they'll already know who you are, at least have an idea who you are if they've been seeing these. Now, if you go straight to doing a community event, they already don't know you, which means they already have a lower degree of trust of you, typically. So again, it's all about stacking these different channels you have together. Now, for community events, well, what might that be? Well, there's tons of holidays where you can, host little community events in a neighborhood, pass out little business cards and meet the people. This same kind of concept of community events, of meeting people, you could be going door to door, door knocking these people and introducing yourself. Maybe an open house is a great example, that you could hold an open house and you're inviting the neighbors to the open house so they could kind of check out their neighbor's house because you know they're interested in that. But the ones who are going to show up to check out the neighbor's house are the ones that are thinking, I wonder what if I sold it? What if I sold it? Could I do it? How much could I sell it for? Where would I move to? The people that show up to an open house that live in the neighborhood, they're thinking these questions. Would I want to move here? Is this house better than mine? Maybe I want to sell my house and move to a different neighborhood. Let's see how this house compares to mine. Oh, my house is nicer. I should be able to sell for more money. That whole type of thing. That's what they're thinking when they go to an open house. You could also be holding maybe the farm area. It's not where it's a farm area of owners. It's a farm area of renters. And maybe you're marketing to a apartment community. And you're marketing to them. You're, again, doing direct mail, social media, pay-per-click to, talk about benefits of buying a home, home ownership, first-time home buyer programs. And then you could hold community events where you're inviting all these residents of this neighborhood to an event on home ownership, on becoming a first-time home buyer. So there's a lot of things it is that you could be doing with the community event idea here, and that's where you're really getting face-to-face to people. That takes more time, but that's why I love the event concept, because now you could stack these people together. As opposed to door knocking one-on-one, which is great, which is a great way to find business, but it takes more time per person rather than if you were able to fill a room with 15, 20 people that are interested in buying a home, and you could speak to them all at once. And it's going to be a little bit more personalized than, say, putting a video online, because they're right there in front of you and you're able to read their emotions. While they're sitting there quietly, even if they're not saying a word in your audience, you looking at them, even though they're not saying anything, they are saying something. Their body language is saying something. So this is a great way where now you're starting to get some feedback from the people it is you're talking to, whereas with video, they could be saying all kinds of things in a video and you will never know because you're not there. But when you're there in front of them, they might not be talking, but they might still be speaking through their body, speaking through their facial expressions, speaking through their demeanor about this. You'll see the people that are, leaning forward with whatever it is you have to talk about, and then at the same time, the people leaning back. And, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know the people leaning in, those are the ones that are most interested, and the ones leaning back, those are your biggest skeptics. And you're getting this feedback as you're working, as you're holding this community event, or whatever the case may be. Again, this is one specific thread of this year. The point of being multi-channel is being everywhere. If there's bus benches near your farm area, you want to be on those bus benches. You could maybe even hire one of those planes to carry the banner around it and just say, hey, circle over this neighborhood all day long. How much is that going to cost me? That sounds like a little much. I'll come back to you when I want to target a larger area and more people. But if the money makes sense, if it works for you, maybe you know somebody who drives one of those planes, you can get that little banner flown around in that neighborhood super cheap. That banner alone, I don't know how much business that's going to get you, but when you stack that on top of everything else, they're going to see you as a superstar real estate agent. That's what you want your people, your clients, to see you as. And you start by building that in your farm area. And as you start to find success in your farm area, you could grow your farm area, adding maybe a second or third farm area, but making sure that you're growing this. And never give up on that farm area. Maybe the farm area you pick right off the bat, maybe the home values aren't too much. Maybe they're like $200,000 to $300,000. And you find success there, but now you start farming in a more expensive neighborhood because you want to be able to get bigger commission checks, and this neighborhood's like $600,000 to $700,000, and you're finding success there. Don't give up on that $200,000 to $300,000 neighborhood. Before you just kiss all that hard work it is that you've done goodbye, get somebody, figure out somebody, making a team. It doesn't even have to be called a team. You just find an agent saying, hey, do you want to work the leads I'm getting for this neighborhood? Pay me a 25% referral fee, and you just work all these leads here, and I'll just keep generating the leads, you keep working them, and that's our arrangement. Or whatever it is you negotiate with somebody else to deal with this. Because there are hungry agents out there that would take those $200,000 deals all day long. I mean, at 3% commission, that's still $6,000 for 3% on the table there. So there's plenty of agents that are hungry for that business out there. If that's no longer you, that doesn't mean that you just disassociate yourself with that neighborhood any longer, but maybe again, that's where you start to grow bigger than yourself. And that's where you're still able to monetize that neighborhood a little bit. And who knows, maybe rather than just 25%, since you are the one generating the leads, you negotiate a 50-50. Hey, I generate the leads, you work them, let's 50-50. And again, even for $200,000 with a 3% commission where it's $6,000 total, if we're doing it 50-50, that's still $3,000. That's still a good payday, especially when there's consistent closings again and again and again and again and again. If you were just doing that just once a month, with a $3,000 that this maybe agent would be making, and you're doing one closing a month, that's $36,000 a year for you and them if you're both 50-50 on that there. So that's a nice addition to whatever else it is you're doing now in your bigger, fancier neighborhood, but that's a great start for an agent that maybe couldn't do anything on their own, that didn't have any leads of their own, and they're trying to start getting things moving now. And maybe you double that up now. Instead of it just being one closing a month, you double it up to 2 closings a month, and now now you're talking $72,000. So there's tons of money it is on the table out there, and so many agents will walk away from a profitable farm area just for whatever reason that they no longer want to do it. They no longer want to spend the money in advertising, they don't have time for it, or whatever the case may be. But whether you have or have not yet found success in that farm area, don't give up on it, because there's business to be had there. Once you start investing in that neighborhood, number one rule of investing is don't lose money. And how do you make sure you don't lose money? You make sure you produce results off of that investment. And that's what farming is all about, becoming known as the expert in the area. Which, yeah, you've got to become the expert in the area, but it's even more difficult to make sure people know that you're the expert in the area. And that's where a multi-channel, omnipresence farming strategy comes in, where you want to be everywhere all the time, in their mailbox, in their email inboxes, on their social feeds, in the Google pay-per-click when they're searching on Google or Bing or whatever it may be, that they're going to your events to learn about first-time home buying or things you need to know, a workshop and getting ready to sell your home or whatever it is, whatever value it is you're providing them. And you might be saying, well, I'm doing this for free, I'm not going to charge them to come to my workshop. No, you want to meet them. You want to meet them. If you're putting a barrier between your client being able to start building a relationship with you because you want to make, some quick buck for charging money for like the workshop or something like that, people aren't going to want to come to it because $50, I could buy other things with $50. I don't need to buy a home. They just want to take my $50 and tell me whatever about home buying. Whereas there's biases as well when you're not charging any money to come to an event like this, because they're like, oh, well, what are they trying to sell me? But chances are, if it's free, they're probably more likely to come than if you pay money. I don't know. It depends on your market too, because there will be people that say, oh, free, they just want to sell me something. So it depends on the consensus of people in your market. And that's what makes real estate so unique, is everywhere you go, people are different, and there'll be little characteristics and traits that maybe you're able to identify that people collectively have in a particular area. And that's what's going to ultimately change the way it is that you market to that neighborhood. So real estate is still a very personal type of transaction. It's still a very personalized type of experience, and they want that personalized experience. Your farm area helps you personalize around that person, because when you get a client out of that farm area, you know everything about that farm area. That's what you're supposed to. That's why you're trying to show yourself as the expert, because you are the best person to help them in that particular area. But again, make sure you set yourself up for success. Do some research on picking the farm area. If you're not sure about where to pick for a farm area, go to tampaschool.com/success and search farming. We've got a bunch of videos all about choosing a good farming strategy. These are all free videos you can find on our Success Center, tampaschool.com/success. If you need to get your real estate license, or we also have got a renewal deadline coming up, so if you've got to do post-licensing or continue education, don't lose your real estate license. Call us up. Get started early on this, so that way you don't have to worry about your license going null and void or anything like that. Call us 813-333-2676. Again, that's 813-333-2676. We've got advisors standing by to answer any questions you have and assist you in any way it is that we can. We want to help see you succeed. We want to see your success, because when you succeed, that's how we succeed. We succeed by helping make successful real estate professionals. So call us up. Let us help take you on that journey. 813-333-2676. That's all the time we've got for today. Thanks, guys, for tuning in, and I'll see you on Friday. Hey, so if you're thinking about starting a real estate career, it could feel a little overwhelming sometimes. Look, that's completely understandable. That's why we're here to help. If you haven't already, check out our Success Center, tampaschool.com/success, or if you don't even know where to begin, give us a call. We'd love to help you out. We've got advisors standing by to answer any questions you have and assist you in any way it is that we can. Our phone number is 813-928-0106. Again, that's 813-928-0106. Give us a call. We're the Tampa School of Real Estate.
Do you want a career that allows you to be in control? With a career in real estate, you'll get to call the shots. Whether you're looking at starting part-time or want to become the next top agent, a career in real estate makes it possible. Find out what it takes at tampaschool.com. Do you want to incorporate studying for your real estate exams into your busy schedule? Now you can review the key topics you need to know to pass your class and state exams with our MP3 audio review. Simply pop in your headphones or connect to your car to reinforce crucial information while you exercise or drive. Listen to the first unit for free at mp3audioreview.com. That's mp3audioreview.com.
Are you thinking about a career in real estate? Hey, I'm John Chrisma with the Tampa School of Real Estate, and we've helped thousands of people just like you obtain their real estate license. If you're thinking about a career in real estate, give us a call. The phone number is 813-928-0106. Our advisors are standing by to answer any questions you have and assist you in any way they can. Hey, if you're enjoying the show today, which I'm sure you are, be sure to hit like, subscribe, post your comments, share with your friends and family. Thank you guys so much for watching.